But it was super cool, honestly, to be that age and to understand that any physical things are really not, they're totally transient.
You are now listening to the Artist King Podcast.
This is DTM of DeltaTangoMike.com, and this is the Artist King Podcast, episode number 96, featuring the artist interview with Alec Addleton. Please take the time to download the Artist King Podcast in your favorite platform and listen anytime. We would like to hear your opinions and suggestions, so please direct your comments to dtm@artistking.org. The Artist King Podcast is available on your iPhone and iPad at the App Store, on Android, on iTunes, on Spreaker.com, Stitcher Radio, and ArtistKingArchive.com. All those links are available on ArtistKing.org. The Artist King Podcast is made possible by the support of our sponsors. You can find them on the partners page at ArtistKing.org, and they include the law offices of Deborah Gonzalez Esquire, VelocityScreenPrint.net, Southside Sickest, Mix Manny Beats, The Biz Garage, and AzaleaCreativeGroup.com. Alec has followed her path in the art life, and that includes custom chalkboard drawings, custom paintings and signs, sculptural installations for showrooms, label design, and a lot more. Find her work on Facebook under her name, Alec S. Arts. Alec's Arts. Now on to our Artist King Podcast interview with Alec Addleton.
My name is Alec Addleton, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, you're a real person from Atlanta?
Yeah.
Born and raised here in Atlanta?
Yeah, I did graduate from high school in Macon, Georgia, and then came back to Atlanta for college at Georgia State. And then right after college, I moved to the left coast for a little while.
Okay.
And lived there for a little under a year, I guess, and then came back and started really going full force with trying to build a life for myself that's art involved. Like, art is at the center. Like, I want more than anything to just be a fully self-supporting artist. So,
awesome.
Yeah. And I felt like my chances of doing that here, where I had the network of creatives, was... Yeah, because sort of penetrating one there was way difficult.
Sure, of course.
And I didn't realize when I moved what I was leaving in Atlanta.
Until you were gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so born and raised in ATL. Very few people still who are here are from ATL nowadays. A lot of people are coming from out of town.
Yeah,
moving in. I've been here 20 some years now. But,
it's crazy. They're building things so fast and just all over the place.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your first art memory.
My first art memory. One of the first, I think I like vaguely remembered, moving around the food on my little play school, high chair or whatever. I do remember, I don't remember the actual experience of taking my mom's lipstick and drawing all over the walls. Okay. But I do remember getting in trouble for having drawn on the walls with her lipstick. So that was like, maybe I was 4 or something like that, 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. Nice.
And do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one older sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does she do art? Is she an artist?
She did at school, and it was really good. But she and I are almost exactly the opposite. So she was born in March. I was born 6 months later in September. Okay. She's and I mean, we have like a 2.5 year difference between us. But also, she's like she graduated with an actuarial degree, so she's like very mathematical minded. Okay. And I'm not at all. And I have like light hair, light eyes, and then she has dark hair, dark eyes. So it's like, it's really cool. We either get along like the most symbiotic relationship ever, or it's just like, don't talk to me for a while. Like, yeah.
Very cool. And then the other artists in your family?
I have in my extended family. There's Craig Hamilton. Is my second cousin. Okay. And he did Aquaman in 1986 for DC and did a lot of work for different comics. He also has done panels for the haunted houses that are off of 85. You know that big haunted house?
That happens every year.
Yeah. He's done some work for them, and he's still in Macon, Georgia. He lives and works down there.
Okay, very cool. So, growing up, did you have exposure to art?
Yes, definitely. So I've been compulsively making art since I was about 4, and probably before then, just rearranging things and looking at them.
Sure.
And it's just been one of those things that I've like had to do, even if I don't really want to. Like, does that make any sense? Like, I can't escape it. And what was I'm sorry, what were you asking?
Were you exposed to art?
Oh yeah. Okay. So growing up, I think that the necessity of me to create things almost made it impossible for my parents not to provide some environment where that's what could happen. So I don't steal mom's lipstick and draw all over the wall. So I always kind of had a zone where I was allowed to just be really messy and do whatever. I mean, there was paint and clay and all kinds of stuff around.
Nice.
And I always, once again, like without meaning to, I always got super tight with my art teachers. Like they've always kind of been like the guardians of my refuge almost, if that makes sense. And if it weren't for the art teachers that I've had along the way, I really don't know what I would do. I mean, they've been such a powerful influence to me, and like such a powerful like support or partnership. Like I feel like I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we want to hear some of those stories.
Yeah.
But let's start at home. So because your parents saw that you had that creative part of you, they provided you with materials.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was good.
So awesome. And it didn't matter, like the quality of it didn't matter. I mean, it, like just having something to draw on or write on. Right. And I remember having, a bunch of paper that would have like printed text or whatever, like just whatever, like anything that they had that they didn't need that I might be able to draw or paint on was kind of, seriously.
Put
it was
on
just
your
kind of, yeah.
That's great.
It was awesome.
And so what do you remember being your early drawings like? What were they about?
So I have one, everything that I made prior to age 9, except for one piece, all burned in a fire in 1996.
What?
Yeah. So this was in Atlanta, and, but there was one piece. My dad is, he was trading some of his work for a frame job on a piece that I made when I was 4 years old that they really liked. And it's a picture of a clown. You know how you draw with crayons and then you take a water-based media over it so that you see the drawing? Okay. So this is one of those, and it's on a big piece of paper, and it's a clown, and it just looks like a cheesy clown. And instead of a hat on his head, the hat is flipped upside down, and it's a flower pot, and there's a flower growing out of the clown's head.
Very cool,
And so, so that's one of the images that I apparently drew.
And he was gonna go
when I was like
frame it.
No, he got it framed. And so like it's like this testament to my childhood artwork that I'm so pumped and excited about. And I didn't know that after my dad has been really treasuring some of anything from like as soon as I was 9, like anything I brought home from school, he would kind of save. And so little by little, I'm finding these things that I've like drawn or written or whatever from when I was little. And they're hilarious. It's so rejuvenating to reconnect with that little creator. You know what I mean? The one that was just like, let's just have a ball and who cares?
Yeah. And that's how art starts, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. But it was super cool, honestly, to be that age and to understand that any physical things are really not, they're totally transient.
Yeah.
Like, they're not important. They could go away anytime. Like, when it comes to, does that make sense?
Yes.
So, and I'm not saying that it's not good or healthy to have, like, a really strong attachment or connection to some physical object. But what was incredible for me was to go through the grief and the loss and the pain of all of these things that I had associated with, only to find out that those things are not me. Does that make sense?
Yep. So I can relate to that. Yeah. I love material things, but I'm not attached to them.
Yeah.
I would cry if I lost something, you know.
Yeah.
I do keep track of my things.
Yeah.
And my kids are grown out the house now, so things don't come up lost anymore. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know, so and so when I'm missing something, I know what it is, and I know where I last left it.
Yeah.
And and I'll be sad if it never comes up again.
Right.
But
at some
move
point,
on.
you gotta just
move
let
on.
it go.
Yeah, move on, and you can always get more stuff.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember, and there's a pendant that I made when I was in high school, I think, and I wore it every single day, and I can still kind of feel where it belongs. Mm-hmm. And I went to some summer program, and it fell off, and I had no idea where it went, and it drove me crazy for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And it's weird because it's like I miss it, but does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like I totally miss it, but I know that I could make another one that'd probably be even better than that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So it's part of the transition and growing and becoming who you are.
Absolutely.
You know? All right. So in school, so you go to school, you have this artistic, creative talent, and your teachers are attracted to you right away. And you're attracted to our teachers.
Yes.
And you get into start doing the art, and do you enter art contests? Do they push you towards art stuff?
Yes, absolutely. I sometimes things would be entered without me knowing that they were entered into things. So like I would just turn stuff in, and then but I remember it was maybe like any time that there was like an art teacher who was willing to do some after school art related program, I was like, please, yes, absolutely. Like, parents, can I do this? This is what I want to do. So, I remember getting very close with my middle school teacher. His name is Chase Campbell, and he's still in the Atlanta area. He teaches at an alternative school. Okay. And that's one thing that's so cool too, is like, because of these like tools of communication and connection, I've been able to keep in touch with these people or like reconnect with them after years and years of not interacting. So he had an after school program, and he was awesome because he would we would collaborate on artwork, which was incredible. And he would like, my favorite part was knowing that like his name and my name were on the same piece of artwork. I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, because it was like this, it was almost like an equalizer where it's not, there is no hierarchy or above or below or anything like that. Like, we're just sharing this creative space and responding to each other and interacting with the material in a meaningful way. And then the moment's over, and that's it, you know? Right. That's another thing that's been kind of interesting to me, is like, when I make a piece of artwork, I kind of just get lost and like flow with whatever's going on, you know? And as soon as I'm finished, which is some arbitrary, I have no idea. I mean, I could keep on working on something for the rest of my life. Right. But at some point, you kind of got to be like, okay, I'm just going to stop. Like, okay, I'm complete with this. And as soon as that happens, I just don't really care what happens to whatever this object is. Like, it's almost like I'm only making it for the purpose of making it. And once the making part is over... Yeah. It's just kind of like, who cares? But honestly, like, learning how to support myself in a capitalist society has required that I attempt to the best of my ability to figure out what the value of this object is that I've lost myself in for some period of time. Yes. And it's such a weird space to navigate. Like, I don't know that anybody knows how to do that. Well, I mean, I definitely don't know how to do it. Sure. But so far, so good. I mean, it's
okay. So let's explore that for a second. Sure. Have you been selling your artwork? How long have you been selling your artwork?
So people have purchased, like, I just make stuff and give it away. Like, when I was growing up, that was just what I would do all the time. Yeah. And I think like around, like in high school, at some point people started, like, I remember someone insisting to give me money for whatever I was giving them. And I was like, oh, cool. Okay. Like, thank you. And then I started making jewelry and stuff. And I remember the jewelry that I made, like, I was making for the purpose of selling the jewelry. And me and my friends would raise a bunch of money for like concert tickets or something that we really wanted to do. Right. We would just kind of do this together. But when it comes to like making I've never been much of like a retailer, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like I haven't been someone who, that was one of the hardest parts in school, is that they were like, make a portfolio, like have some consistent element going on in your work. And I just I'm not that person. And I remember really wishing that I was, or trying really hard to do that. But I just get, if I'm exploring a concept or an idea, I kind of go total ham sauce on it, so that when it's over, I'm like, okay, I'm finished. And I don't, like, if I start I don't know if that makes any sense, but the momentum or the energy just kind of ends after not too many pieces.
Yeah.
And I'm just blown away by people who can do like 20, 30, 40, 5 years worth of the same or similar stuff. I'm like, wow, like, because the whatever they're probing into has to go way deeper than I apparently can get, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, so what I have done, there have been a few paintings that I've done just like playfully. There was one of a peacock that a woman saw, and she's a collector in the area, and she saw it and she was like, I love it. How much is it? And I just threw out some random number, and it was almost like a joke. Like I was like, there's no way this lady's going to give me this much money for it, but why not? Like, you don't know if you don't ask for it, right? So I threw out this number, and she was like, okay, and wrote a check. And I was like, what? Like, is that real? Like, that really just happened. And that, to me, honestly, that little exchange right there was one of the biggest, I had some kind of internal shift where I was like, all of a sudden I recognized, because I think that prior to this, I was like, there's no way I'll be able to financially support myself making art and doing creative things. And as soon as this happened, I was like, there's absolutely nothing stopping me from financially supporting myself making art and doing creative things. Like what, I don't know why, it was just in that moment, but like a total turnaround where I was finally willing to do, I was like, okay, like this is what it's going to be. And I mean, I have like 5 jobs, like all the time, you know what I mean? And they're tiny jobs, and most of them don't pay that well. But then there's this one that seems to sort of support me enough to where I can do the other ones, and it just keeps me in the game, you know? I really like, what's that? Neil Gaiman's commencement speech. Are you familiar with that one?
No, but I know.
Oh, incredible. So he talks about how there's like a mountain, right?
Okay.
And we're all headed to our mountain. And the mountain, for me personally, is just to make art all the time and to be able to get my teeth cleaned and eat healthy food. Like, I feel like the value that artists contribute to society are as valuable, if not more in some different way, than the lawyers, the doctors, the dentists, and all of these people. And it's just a matter of like determining how. Anyway, Neil Gaiman talks about the mountain, and I just want to make art all the time and support myself. And I'm not trying to make $1 million. I'm not trying to get rich and famous. I don't care. Like, I just want to happily draw pictures and eat some vegetables. Like, that's all, you know what I mean?
Right.
And keep the lights on. So anyway, he talks about it's a winding path, but basically anytime that you're considering a decision, you just ask yourself whether or not this is still heading to your mountain. And I really appreciate that perspective. It's kind of helped me to keep us, to keep a focus on this long-term game that I'm trying to play here, you know? And it's interesting because saying yes to a job doing, coffee wholesale delivery, in my mind is still in the direction of my mountain, because it's a sensory experience, and I'm smelling and I'm looking and I'm packaging things. And so I'm still working with my hands, but it's not the intense focus that it takes for me to do a label design, if that makes any, does that make sense? So it kind of keeps my head in the game of sensory interaction to objects and spatial relationships and things like that. And then but it's more like resting.
Sure.
And then I can take whatever so I start my day on Monday doing this coffee thing, and then by the time the afternoon comes, I'm ready to play with colors and dimensions and design stuff and super tight. It's awesome. I love it.
So to go all the way back around.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so tangential.
This is good.
Okay.
This is good.
Good.
because somebody has to relate to some part of this, and I know I relate to some of these things.
Thank you.
I only want to draw. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
So whatever I got to do to support that habit, then I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
But you have to also make money to pay your bills and so on and so forth. So you a lot of artists have jobs and work. So that's a normal thing. But let's talk about selling your artwork.
Oh, right.
So now, that moment when you sold that piece, you and you're already the kind of person, the kind of artist who already disassociate yourself from your art after it's done, because the whole part that matters is the creative process.
Right.
And so now it's like seeing it. Now you got to see your art and switch your brain to saying, well, now this has value to somebody.
Right.
And I need to get that value.
Yes.
And so you do kind of that process. You don't necessarily know exactly what it's worth in the open market, but you at least know what it's worth to you and how much you need to get before it goes away. Yeah. And then and nobody knows, like you mentioned earlier. Maybe nobody knows, and then we're just playing around and making things up. Mm-hmm. But there is a process that you want to go through in your mind and add up the materials. Absolutely. And add up your time. Absolutely. And as long as you have that covered, then you're not taking a loss. Right. So it's like the stock market or anything else, like your car. You buy low and you sell high. Right. And so as long as you can do that with your art, then you do know. Absolutely. No, you're totally right. There are quantifiable, concrete. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What I mean is, like, apart from just that, mm-hmm. whatever the value of the art is. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense? Yeah, because and that's determined by the people who you're talking to. Right. If you're friends and they're all struggling, mm-hmm. then the price that you can get out of them for a piece is totally different than if you're at a gallery somewhere and everybody's walking around with pearls on their neck. Yeah. And pulling up in fancy cars. Yeah. So yes, that's the part that you have to gauge and figure out where you are in your art and your career. Yeah. And then see how it best fits. And but I do know that through these conversations, that artists, and myself included, just raise the price every now and then. Yeah, yeah. It's been slow going mm-hmm. for me, and I've mm-hmm. definitely sort of been like, I've pitched someone way too high and mm-hmm. then been, like, knocked down again and, like, let them know, like, oh, by the way, like, I really want the job. So mm-hmm. if this is out of your... Like, I just stay really direct and honest with mm-hmm. the people that I'm working with. Mm-hmm. And I ask for what I want. And if I find out that that's not doable, then, we just continue the conversation. It's negotiation, just like I think happens in all other sectors of business. Sure. So, and you have the price that you won't go under. Exactly. You got to have that. Exactly. That's the base price, because after that you start losing money. Right. And you should just give it away. Just take your money out your pocket and say, here. Yeah. Go hire somebody else. Yeah. Well, it has, on that tip, uh-huh. it's been super helpful for me to look at, like, if a project, for example, won't pay me, at the price range that I can afford for it to pay me, I consider other values mm-hmm. of that to me, mm-hmm. where it's like, okay, is this something that would increase my revenue if I were to go and be in the room? Like, is this the right room for me to go and hang out in mm-hmm. and take a loss mm-hmm. for some long-term gain or for connections? Like, if I end up going in with the intention... I'm sorry, but people. All I mean to say is that the connection to people that would only happen as a result of accepting that loss and being in the room mm-hmm. can sometimes be far more valuable than dollars right now. Right. So, but as long as I'm going into it with that intention, and this is the value that I'm going here for, I don't end up leaving there feeling like I've been violated or volunteered used for some poor... Exactly. Yeah. So how did you get that kind of... point of view? Where'd you learn that? I have no idea. I think it's probably been like a hard-earned kind of one.
where like exposure to, you know, like you said, like being used and stuff like that. I'm someone who I so immediately just like trust other people and like just love them, and I just expect that they love and value, and you know what I mean? And I don't think that they don't love and value me as well, but I think that I would usually assume that others would like somehow take care of me in a way that I wasn't willing to explicitly say or to make clear before engaging in the project, if that makes sense. And so just exposing myself, like saying yes when the answer is probably no to a lot of different projects has placed me in a position to recognize that, first of all, I don't have to continue going in. I don't have to say yes, obviously. You know, second is if there's any aspect of me that wants to say, it's really important to get clear and upfront and direct with people before I show up and start doing any work.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
Like I have to have these uncomfortable conversations about things like money and numbers before, because the bottom line is, if you say, hey, I'd love for you to come and make art for me, guess what? I would love and come to make art for you too. Like that's what I want to do. I want to, you know?
Yeah.
But what's so funny is that in the minds of most people, I think they think that I'm having so much fun that I shouldn't get paid because it's just fun for me. But the bottom line is, regardless of whether or not creating art is something that I have to do just because it's my nature to do it, or if it's like really fun or this like spiritual, you know, development or experience or whatever, I'm sorry, it's work, man. Okay. Like the reason why I'm able to sit down and do in 15 minutes what I can do on paper in 15 minutes is because I've had countless hours and days and years of not getting paid, doing nothing but spending time with paper, you know? So, and that's valuable experience. And I know it's not, you know, I know it's not this like free market thing where you can say like accountants get paid X amount, or there probably is that actually. I should probably look that up. I should probably look that up.
That accountants get paid what, a certain rate because
like, you know, like once you get X degree, then you're expected to make X amount of money,
right?
Whatever,
and that is
salary.
That is actually true. I mean, my wife just getting her master's, and the job she's looking at, they start at a certain rate.
Right.
So most people, when you get a degree...
Right. Where I think with the arts, it's a little different, because there are people who do get an education, people who don't get an education, people who, you know, I mean, anybody can stumble into creating things. And I honestly think that creating art, visual art, is just really great for anybody.
That's right.
Anybody who's willing to just sit down and interact with colors on a paper, like as long as you're not invested in like some perfection idea of what you think it's supposed to look like, I personally believe that it's just really good for you.
That's right.
It's just really good.
And that's where that whole adult coloring comes into play in today's society, is that it's become this big thing because people need to decompress and relax.
And I think it like increases neuroplasticity in the brain and stuff. Like it activates areas and makes new like neurobiological connections that just don't happen. Like it relieves stress. Like looking at art, engaging in art. Apparently though, I read a study recently where apparently like engaging in the creation of art is like the most beneficial thing for people to do.
Yeah.
So I'm just super glad that I've been doing it as long as I have.
That's right, and I think, and that's where the valuing of others of art by others comes into play, where they say, "Well, this is your therapy. You're having fun. You're enjoying yourself. Come and enjoy yourself here at our place and stuff." And you don't get to pay. We don't have to pay you anything because you're already, that is your therapy, right? But yeah, there comes a time when you have to start looking at it as a business and saying, well, if I don't want to do anything else, and if I want to make this a sustainable thing, then we got to find the customers for it.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that's been so cool that I just kind of fell into, a friend of mine opened an electronic cigarette business called Big Bang up in Sandy Springs.
Okay.
And he had a chalkboard on the wall. And he invited me to come. It was really last minute. He was just like, Alec, I know you do art and we're having this party that's opening this store. Like, will you come and just like draw something on this giant chalkboard? Mm-hmm. And I was like, sure, why not? So, and I talked about like, payment or whatever. And I don't remember what I ended up. I was like, whatever.
Sure.
So I just go in and I do something super quick and I hang out for the party and it's a great time. And apparently like they liked what I did in whatever short period of time I did. And I love chalk because it's super flexible, very forgiving, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he ended up asking me to come over and over to do new chalkboards just at that Sandy Springs location. And also as his business grew and he opened new locations, I would go and do the chalkboards in those retail locations. And so I had no idea that what was happening was I was building a portfolio of these chalkboard drawings, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I couldn't do when I was intending to do that on my own. So thank God I fell into this situation where it's like, oh, cool. Like that's a portfolio and it doesn't necessarily have to be, you're repeating a similar image over and over. So I've done, one of the first ones I did was like King Kong versus Godzilla in the city of Atlanta on a 10 by 4 foot chalkboard.
Okay.
And then I did like Mars Attacks Atlanta on a 10 by 4 foot chalkboard. And we've done like space explosions and things like that. And their business, they were like, Alec, would you let us, videotape you doing one of these boards sometimes because they're really good. And I was like, sure, why not? Like that might cost a little more, or know. So we worked that out, and they ended up doing a video that was so well done that a bunch of, my sister shared it with some of her people, and I showed it to family and stuff like that. And my sister's boss, she works at a software company, a small software company here. And he liked it so much. He was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. We should have her come and do these chalkboards here. And I hadn't thought about it. But so I'm going through all of these, I'm like considering the amount of time that it takes for me to make something that's like a quality drawing on these large areas that I am comfortable being like, yes, this is my work. And so we go through all of this, like, negotiating gray space of like understanding what's going on here until finally, he ended up getting a chalkboard installed in the space. And I've been making chalkboards there. I think on average it's like every 6 weeks or so.
Nice.
And they've become like, I do like portraits of people that work at the business. And once again, it's not something that would have occurred to me to do had someone not asked me to try it. Yeah. And offered me money to do it. Right. And that's, I think, a really important piece when it comes to my personal experience. Like, I'm not someone who can very easily go into the studio with no objective and come out with this beautiful piece of artwork. It's like anything that I've made for myself, like personally, has kind of taken a really long time. Right. And I don't seem to be motivated by it the same way that I do if someone's like, I'll give you X amount of money to have this done by this time. Like that, there's something about that formula that really works well for me. I don't do well in highly structured environments, but environments with minimal structure, I thrive in. So if you tell me you want, a football themed drawing of your business versus these, customers or competitors and some cheerleaders in the stands and whatever, like that's enough for me to effectively do something that's not only beautiful, but also super funny and like really like tongue in cheek ridiculous. And I have a great time doing it. But all I'm saying is that, when it comes to manifesting something that's in somebody else's head, right. I seem to be, there's something about that I seem to do really well. As long as the person involved is willing to share a lot with me up front, I seem to understand like stylistically what they're looking for, like subject matter, what they're looking for. And I can take whatever that is and make it not only what they would like for it to be, but usually it's like they're super pleased. And I'm like, oh, thank God, that's awesome. Like, I'm like, sweet. Yeah. But that, to me, like, what about that is not work? Like if I'm being given something to create, Like if I'm the vehicle that's taking what's in your head, because you can't obviously manifest it by yourself. So I'm the one that's like making your custom vision of whatever you want to exist in the world. Like if I'm the one that's giving that existence, if that makes sense, like how is that not work?
Right. It is work.
Like that
is a job in itself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's hard work sometimes. I mean, the portraits, like I didn't know that I could do portraits, like recognizable portraits of people with sticks of chalk. Like I had no idea I could do this. And as soon as I'm like, okay, we're going to do this, you know, like I have no idea how, but we're just going to figure it out.
That's right.
And I go and do them, and they're I mean, it's energizing in one sense. And it's also like super draining to like, because the degree of focus that I have to have on like placement of like eyeballs and ears and noses in relation to each other on this chalk face, it's like, it takes a lot out of you, you know? Like I can only do like 3 or 4 before I'm just like, I gotta go. Like I can't, you know?
That's good.
Yeah.
So, that's an example of a room that you go into.
Yeah.
And other things happen beyond what you would have got paid.
Yeah.
That's very good. I like it.
Yeah.
I started doing some chalk art last year.
Nice.
Just for kicks. And then but I recorded myself.
That's
I
awesome.
did a time lapse, and then I published those.
Love it.
And I get a lot of response out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
people love them, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. And then I did one a couple months ago, this 40-foot long wall.
Nice. Chalk?
Chalk.
Where?
Yes, at General Assembly.
Is it
in
still?
Ponce City Market. It's still there.
Yes.
And people have been leaning on it, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it's going to be time to redo the whole wall. And let's see. So I recorded myself, and I did a Facebook Live.
Nice.
And next thing I know, I'm getting hit.
That's awesome.
With opportunities.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Is we just kind of stumble into it. You know, like it's not. Yeah.
And I like doing art that is low pressure. Like you said, there's some direction.
Yeah.
And so that I can head in the right path.
Yeah.
But let me do my thing.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
So, all right, we kind of going all over the place, and all this is good stuff. It's good. It's really good though, because some artists are scared of negotiation. Some artists have no idea of how to even bring up that conversation, and it's not hard for me. I grew up with a mother who sold Tupperware and Avon and all this other stuff, so I heard her pitch. Yeah. I heard her ask for money and tell people how much it costs. Yeah. So with me, it's not hard for us to get to that conversation. I listen to the idea all day long, and it's like, okay, cool. Now we get to the point where how much you're gonna pay me, and I need this much money. But that's a part of it. So everything you said is good. It helps. Going to help somebody. But tell us about in high school, when you were looking at college and looking at your future, what was, did you think that you were going to be a working artist? Is that something that you wanted to be?
So I have wanted to be a working artist since I was 4 years old. Like just the fact that I was compulsively doing it, and that it's just it's so much a part of me that I can't sort of divorce it from myself. I had some super challenging moments in high school and in college, just being like, what am I doing? Like, why do I even think that this is possible for me? Is it even possible for me? Like just wondering, because I have a brain that's a pretty good brain, and I could pursue something that's guaranteed to make you money. But for me personally, it wasn't really anything that I ever questioned. It was, I mean, I questioned it, but it wasn't ever anything that I actually like took action on. Like I knew I was going to major in art in college. And I think the question was whether or not I was going to double major in some other subject that might provide me with more stable finance. Exactly. And when it was a difficult decision to make, choosing like my area of focus, and I definitely didn't know how to be a working artist. And I think that was one of my great frustrations in college, was that there wasn't, I wasn't exposed to any classes or resources. It may just be because of the busyness. I mean, I had 3 part-time jobs in college.
Okay.
I was going to full-time school.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be that I wasn't able at the time to like look for these resources
Mm-hmm.
on campus. But I don't remember having like classes that taught you about like negotiating rates for artists or like just really practical information on like how to support yourself as a visual artist. Like what, and I think that would be super, that's one of the things that I'm so grateful about Art is King is you guys hold these workshops and you have these events that are extremely practically valuable to somebody like me who's trying to survive by making art.
Right.
So I had a lot of questions, and I remember being very afraid in a sense, but also knowing that I couldn't escape this.
Right.
Like I couldn't escape this creating things. And I've tried very sincerely to be someone who shows up at a place from 9 to 5 every day. Like I've sincerely been like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we've got to do. This is just what you do to support yourself financially in today's world. And I can't tell you how many different ways I've tried to do this. Like I just cannot, there's something about my nature that cannot align with this like 9 to 5 lifestyle at all. And I don't get, like, I don't know why. It's just not, it's just, I can't do it. Like I literally have to just accept that as a limitation of mine where it's like, okay, it's just not for me. And it doesn't seem to matter what the environment of it is. Like I worked at Peter Block Architects as an office, like the office manager there.
Okay.
And it was sort of like an 8 to 4 or 5 situation. And it started off slowly and built up to 5 days a week. And I quickly learned that like I was not, I don't know why, but by Wednesday afternoon, I become someone that I really don't like to be around. And I'm not trying to live my life that way.
Right.
Like I'm trying to live my life, you know, I want to enjoy who I am, and I want to make valuable contributions to the people around me on a regular basis. Like I'd like to be of service to the people around me. And by Wednesday, man, at a place that I'm expected to be 5 days a week, the people around me, no matter how beautiful or kind or loving they are, just like become my enemies in my head or some kind of, I mean, it's weird stuff that goes down. Weird stuff goes down. And so, I'm just really glad to have found out, you know, that I can have different jobs and that, I mean, it's taking that leap is really scary though.
Right. It is.
You know,
it is.
Just being like, yeah.
But, and it can be a slow process that you get into.
It's absolutely been that way for me. I was waiting tables in college and immediately after college, waiting tables. And then I moved out to California with the promise of this work opportunity that ended up totally falling through and being a bit of a disaster. And moved up to Eugene, Oregon from Northern California, which is where we moved directly to from Atlanta. And then I was working at a retirement home, waiting tables at a retirement home. And it was incredible because I made best friends with like this 105-year-old lady. And I know what you need to eat for breakfast to live to be 105 years old.
Okay.
You know?
All right.
So that's valuable information. And then I was faced with this, you know, do I want to stay here in Eugene, Oregon, where I fit like a glove, but I could only work to survive? Or do I want to move back to Atlanta and actually build this life for myself that I've wanted to live since I was little? Like now that I know what I know, right? Now that I know what these resources are that I have back there, and now that I experientially know that you could drop me off anywhere and I'd be able to figure out how to live. Like that was some really powerful experience for me where the confidence of knowing that I can survive no matter what was really important. And then, so I moved back to Atlanta, obviously. And I think one of the first things that I did when I lived here was doing door-to-door fundraising for different campaigns to, you know, really granola stuff. Like save the Appalachian Trail from having really big signs in the views and stuff like that. Yeah, all the while still trying to make art or figure out how to do it. And sometimes I remember even just abandoning it completely, like just being like, that's for children. Like I just can't even entertain that. And then someone from my past would ask me or hire me to do a creative visual thing. And I'm like, fine, like I just can't, fine.
Right.
Okay, like we're just going to do this. And then slowly but surely, and falling, just saying yes. Like just when somebody is like, hey, Alec, will you try this? As long as I have the guts to be like, will you pay me something? And then say yes and just do it. Like I literally have been so pleasantly surprised with the way that the universe and people in it have responded to me when I just say yes. To like, I didn't know that I was going to be the chick that people want to pay to draw chalkboards.
Right.
And here I am. And like, I've got a whole business model around these chalkboards where I'm like pitching, because it's an unbelievable thing that I didn't even recognize was unbelievable. But the fact that people can take stop animation photographs of me drawing a chalkboard that they have customized for their business, right? They can take this media and it's custom content for their social media pages. What about that is not really valuable?
Right.
Right. And I think honestly, places like Coca-Cola and like there's, doctor's offices, like there's not. I think it's interesting that I believed for a while that chalkboards were limited to places like coffee shops and restaurants or pizza place or something like that. As soon as this software, the software business owner approached me with this, like, hey, I would really love for you to come and do these chalkboard things. I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. In sterile environments where people are working in cubicles, for there to be a significant portion of the wall covered with like messy, smeary, but somehow organized and beautiful chalkboard, right? Like some relationship to like real human messy life where it's not this like clean straight lines and corners and like hard sterile, so like I just see them as being a really powerful reminder to people that like life is fun and great and living it is awesome. And
you should have some beauty around you, no matter what business you're in. Absolutely. Very nice. So what kind of art do you do besides chalk? What is your main medium? What did you grow up drawing and sticking to? Or painting?
I don't really have like a main. Well, I guess colored pencils are probably have become sort of a go-to. And I've also been doing a lot of paintings. People have been paying me to make paintings lately, like oil paintings and stuff. And those have gone pretty well. I'm definitely like have a long way to go when it comes to any kind of wet media, whether it's oil or water. Drawing, I think, is apart from sculpture, drawing is the most comfortable thing for me to do, but I seem to be more effective, or like I understand three-dimensional relationships. I think a little better than I understand two-dimensional relationships.
Okay.
So I chose sculpture at school because, first of all, it allowed you to kind of be as neurotic as I am in terms of like just being all over the place, like the exposure to materials. Like in with sculpture, you can work in clay, wood, metal, paper, like whatever. Where, so colored pencils mostly.
So you're very diverse.
Yeah.
And are you working on different projects, on different media, depending on the week that you're in? You don't have like a set, you don't have one type of media you work in that you're constantly on day in and day out. You have different things.
Right. Well, I personally believe that if you're selecting a material, the material itself comes with a lot of meaning, if that makes any sense. And so if you know what it is that you want to do or say with a visual language, the selection of the material, in my view, is very important. Like there's like metal says something very differently than wood says something, right? Like there's a warmth to wood that doesn't necessarily exist with metals, for example. So so to me, for me to be a visual artist, I find it really important that I stay kind of open when it comes to the materials that I choose from to communicate a concept or idea. Because I'm someone who, I really do believe that the power of visual art is completely transcendent, and it transcends language. There's no, like literally, like anyone from anywhere in the whole wide world can stand in front of a piece of artwork and be affected somehow by that artwork. And I just think that the unifying aspect and power of that is unbelievable, and that for whatever reason, for me personally, I don't want to close the door to anything. I want to stay. I want to be like, you know what? Sure, we could build a whale out of rocks. I don't know. Why not? Like, I literally at some level believe that I can make anything out of anything. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time, attention, and resources.
Right.
And so, you know, I mean, I hope there are plenty of people out there that have all kinds of really awesome, weird stuff that they'd like to get into. If you want somebody to help you, I'm so down to do that. I am so down to help you. Just like, why not? Like, I don't know. You want to build a moose out of I don't know. You know, why not? So, I just think it's really, I just think it's really limitless.
Right. So keep it open to all experiences and all trials and so on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does your workspace look like? Do you work from home? Do you have a apartment, a building, a warehouse?
I'm so pumped and happy and excited that my boyfriend and I recently moved into an apartment, and upstairs there's a spiral staircase and a loft upstairs. And all of my supplies are there. I'm sorry, I'm getting really emotional because I'm just not used to having, like, for the last many years of my life, I've just had like whatever I could have. I haven't had my supplies with me.
Right.
And I haven't had space that's like stable and reliable for me to be able to work in it. And it's just so, it blows my mind. Like, I have all of my 3D tools. I have, you know, my paints and my pencils and it's just, I'm so grateful.
It's your world, it's your corner, it's your zone.
I'm so grateful. Yeah, and it blows me away because it's never, I feel like, I'm used to being sort of shoved in the basement, you know, like, oh, okay, like, you're an artist, go get messy in the basement. And this is like the total opposite of that. Like, I'm not in a basement, I'm not in a garage, like, I'm at the highest level of this building and there's a skylight, and it just absolutely blows my mind.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great. You can work on something and leave it there. Nobody's gonna touch it.
Yes,
nobody's gonna move
and I can leave my supplies out. Yeah,
come back.
I can be as messy as I want to.
When you come back, everything's where you left it.
Exactly.
And you keep up, and just keep going from where you left off.
Exactly.
Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
That's really good. And you have to have a space like that if you're gonna work in all mediums. However you feel like it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like why I have my space.
It's awesome. This place is awesome.
You gotta. Every week is different. Every project is different, and I need to have my resources around.
Absolutely.
I need to be able to grab it and touch it as soon as I want to.
Absolutely.
Oh, this is awesome. Okay, so social media. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook. ALEC 'SART.
Okay.
Is my business page. So it's Alex Art, the possessive of my name, ALEC 'S Art. Because mostly people, anytime they hear that, they go, Alex, ALEX. And I'm like, no, Alex, ALEC 'S. Yeah. And that's pretty much the only place that I'm active right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you can email me at ALECSART at gmail.com, alexart@gmail.com.
You don't do like an Instagram or Twitter?
I have that, but I don't really do anything on it. Like, I'm with Instagram, I just haven't habituated it for whatever reason. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's a great medium for artists because
I think so
we're very
too.
visual.
Yeah. I have no idea why I haven't picked up on that, but
yeah. You have a smartphone?
Yeah.
You on a smartphone?
Yeah.
There you go.
I know.
It's okay though. Don't let it bug you that then it overtakes your life. Because it's real easy to get caught up on any social media and
well, that's why keeping my Facebook page as like cohesive and up to date as I can is just about the extent that I can tolerate being on the computer.
I see. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like just for having that and like being able to keep up with it, I'm like, Alec, you're doing great. That's like compare, you know what I mean?
I got you.
Yeah.
So no website. What about a website?
I really want to. I had a website. It was kind of crappy. My dad helped me make it.
You made it yourself?
Yeah. Well, so, and that's another thing, when it comes to like graphic design stuff, those tools are so powerful. And when I watch people using them, I'm like, this is amazing. I really need to learn how to do this. And then I'll sit down and try to do it. And like, I just can't. And I'm like, okay, we're going to be really patient and we're just going to learn the brush tool today. And that's all we're going to do.
Right.
And I'll play on it for a little while, but I can't get lost in playing buttons the way that I can interacting with physical materials. Yeah. And so I'm like, you know what? Like, this is for somebody else. Like, this is for the graphic designers.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just really glad that I have a Facebook page. I might get a website, hopefully sometime. I'm going to probably need to pay somebody to help me make that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all. Okay. Very good.
So there's your long answer.
Hey, that's good. Whatever, and it works for you,
Yeah.
That's all. It works. And that's what you want. You want a presence online somewhere that will help funnel clients and attention.
Absolutely.
So that's all. All right. So the last question, and it's going to be, if you had some advice for Alec of 10 years ago, up and coming artist, what are some words of wisdom you may have? Anything, as long as you want to talk about it, or short.
That's amazing and a really intense question. One of the things I think I would say is, if you don't have a handful of haters, you're not doing something right. And like, to not take other people's criticism personally. I think that while I was in school, I challenged myself to please everyone with my work, which I think is just impossible. So like, just knowing that as a visual artist, it's very important that I have my own voice. And because since graduating from college, I think a lot of what I've been doing is unlearning a bunch of the stuff that I learned there. And that's been the most powerful and effective. Does that make sense? Like just not taking myself so seriously has really been helpful. There's nothing wrong with doing, silly chalkboard drawings. If that, just knowing that, like granting myself permission to just make whatever it is that I'm making. Like, whatever I'm making and however it's going to be, like, just let it be that, Like, the technical learning that I experienced while I was in high school and stuff, I think that's enough technical understanding, unless I'm like driven or led to learn something technically. All I'm saying is that I don't think that I'm missing anything that I need to be effective at what I'm here to do. And anything that's supposed to be added to me is already being added right on time. And if I could talk to me at 15 years ago, I think that would be the message that I would say, because I remember so intensely trying to be something different or do something different or do something better and like just hustling. And that's it's been helpful because I kind of burned out on it. Like, I was like, I finally realized, like, this is not helpful or effective. Like, when I do something that I think is better, there are still plenty of people who don't think it's good enough. And the bottom line is, I am absolutely enough. I'm created exactly the way that I'm supposed to be. And my function on the planet, even if my function on the planet is to bring chaos to order and order to chaos, what an incredible function. Like, why run from that, if that makes sense? Mm-hmm. So I think just like accepting who and what it is that I am and where I am and doing what I'm doing, there's a freedom and a bliss there where I don't even necessarily have to be making artwork to get in the flow, if that makes sense. I used to believe that I had to be making art in order to get to that space of flow, and that's not been the case, you know, which I'm so glad for. I mean, I'm totally, like, I can just kind of get there, obviously, as this interview is like proof of. Yeah, just doing pretty much anything. Packing coffee bags and, you know.
This has been your Artist King podcast, and I am DTM of DeltaTangoMike.com, telling you to get out and learn so you can earn. Let go of the starving artist title and move into the thriving artist art life.